Some individuals find solitude effortless, thriving in their own company without a trace of loneliness, while others in the same quiet setting unravel. Many assume staying at home is simply about avoiding external noise, but it runs deeper than that. As Machiavelli might suggest, such isolation holds hidden power. When viewed through the right lens, isolation isn't about retreating. It's a deliberate strategy. It's the kind of move that separates those who rely on the world from those the world begins to rely on. Most don't choose the solace of home because they adore tranquility. They do so because they've understood what happens when they give too much of themselves to others. Every smile, every conversation, and every attempt to fit into social molds drains an unseen reservoir. Their withdrawal stems not from fragility, but from self-preservation. In today's world, visibility is idolized. Followers, networking, and constant connection are celebrated. Yet Machiavelli recognized that true power doesn't lie in being perpetually seen. It resides in unpredictability. Receding from nonstop social interaction cultivates that exact quality. When you're less exposed, no one knows your thoughts, actions, or capabilities. This ambiguity fosters respect and sometimes quiet fear. There's also a deeper psychological element to this preference for isolation. Those who prefer being at home often operate on an internal reward system. Their satisfaction arises not from external stimulation, but from maintaining control over their environment, their emotions, their schedule. It's not chaos they fear. It's the waste of time that chaos creates. Instead, they channel their energy into honing something inward, be it skills, thoughts, or plans. Such individuals often structure their days meticulously, not out of obsession, but out of a strong aversion to dependency on others. Mastery of their surroundings makes them feel secure, and when that's compromised, withdrawal becomes their refuge. This rare trait of self-containment, the ability to find fulfillment without outside affirmation, is increasingly uncommon. As Machiavelli asserted, a prince should protect his independence from both subjects and allies. Its modern parallel might be understood as guarding one's inner peace from the crowd's rhythm, its incessant urgency, its gossip disguised as connection, all serve to pull individuals toward a narrative that saps their energy and autonomy. Those who prefer solitude sense this trap inherently. They know every external interaction carries hidden costs, expectations, comparisons, and the draining need to explain oneself to people who often don't genuinely listen. These homebodies have come to understand something profoundly transformative. Silence amplifies thought. Not in a chaotic or overwhelming way, but with clarifying precision. Solitude sharpens awareness. Patterns emerge. Why people behave as they do. Why societal pressures favor conformity. And why the world often rewards noise over depth. Like Machiavelli, they thrive by observing rather than actively participating. Mastery doesn't come from playing every game, but from careful, detached study. What outsiders often fail to grasp is that solitude doesn't breed passivity, it fosters selectivity. When these individuals engage socially, their presence feels intense. Their words carry meaning. Their insights cut deep. Their calm steadiness feels almost unshakable. This is the result of prolonged introspection and reflection instead of impulsive reaction. Most people live in habitual reaction loops, constantly responding to stimuli without pause. In contrast, solitary minds develop a pause, a moment of composure between stimulus and response. It's within this pause that something profoundly Machiavellian arises: deliberate control. The ability to respond not from emotion, but reason, stems from this mental discipline. Achieving this composure requires practice through silence and solitude. Time alone forces individuals to confront their own thoughts without distractions. Initially uncomfortable, this process reveals how many opinions are borrowed and how many ambitions are secondhand. The discomfort drives many back to external noise, scrolling through devices, dialing a friend's number, or seeking any distraction capable of drowning out self-reflection. Those who endure and weather the storm of solitude emerge transformed. They no longer feel the need to prove themselves. From that moment onward, they become enigmatic in the social realm, unbound by guilt, immune to flattery, and unhurried by others' expectations. Their sense of grounding becomes internal, an inner stability that makes them powerful without the need for outward displays of strength. There's an intriguing paradox here. People who prefer isolation may appear introverted, but at their core, they're not necessarily shy. They are deliberate. They speak only when it matters, act only with intention, and engage only when there is an advantage. This careful conservation of energy for meaningful actions aligns with Machiavelli's notion of intelligence. For him, true effectiveness was about measured action, appearing slow to move, yet striking quickly and decisively when the time was right. Those who isolate embody this mindset. In their silence, they build energy and release it with precision, whether it's through a creative breakthrough, a confrontation, or a life-altering decision. Their choices are rarely impulsive because they have mentally rehearsed the potential outcomes countless times. However, this way of thinking comes at a cost: detachment. Spending too much time alone can lead to seeing people as pieces in a strategic game rather than companions. The ability to predict behavior with astonishing accuracy can make emotional spontaneity feel irrelevant. Machiavelli himself cautioned against this sort of detachment, warning that losing empathy can render strategies cold and isolating, setting off a destructive cycle of further alienation. The balance lies in staying emotionally aware while maintaining strategic distance, understanding how people feel without becoming entangled in those feelings. Those who thrive in solitude often walk this line effortlessly. They feel deeply but act selectively. Yet not everyone masters this equilibrium. For some, isolation isn't a deliberate choice. It's a retreat born from pain, perhaps after betrayal or humiliation. They don't withdraw because they cherish solitude, but because the world has taught them to fear vulnerability. Even so, there's something profound in that pain, as seen through Machiavelli's lens. The wounds of betrayal or rejection sharpen perception. A person who has been hurt learns to pick up on subtle shifts in tone or microscopic changes in expression. They gain their understanding of human behavior not through study, but from the scars left behind by experience. Ironically, it is these scars that often make isolated individuals so adept at reading others, far more so than people realize. When someone says they enjoy staying home, they often mean they've come to understand the cost of being overly present in the world. They recognize that dispersing oneself too widely dilutes influence, the same way light loses intensity when scattered. In contrast, solitude focuses their energy and sharpens it into something powerful. Machiavelli might have called this mastery the art of concealment, where one's presence becomes so disciplined and rare that it feels meaningful even in absence. Those who isolate live by this principle intuitively. They seldom make social appearances, but when they do, their presence is charged with intention and magnetism. Paradoxically, the more time they spend alone, the more influential they become when they re-enter society. Living in observation rather than constant participation owns their awareness of power dynamics in ways that socially immersed individuals rarely experience. They notice the subtle hierarchies that govern group dynamics, the tone someone uses when they assume authority, the directional pull of laughter toward the most confident figure, and the quiet competition hidden within friendships. For those immersed in daily social interactions, this noise becomes background static. They stop noticing it altogether. But for the person who steps back and observes from a distance, these patterns become clear and decipherable. This skill of decoding is foundational to political intelligence, the kind Machiavelli revered and relied upon. It's important to note that those who isolate aren't socially inept. Rather, they are intolerant of pretense. They have little patience for the small lies that smooth social interactions, the exaggerated compliments, performative empathy, or hollow promises that keep relationships superficially harmonious. To the isolated person, these empty gestures are painfully transparent, and once you've seen through societal facades, it becomes nearly impossible to unsee them. This heightened awareness makes returning to social environments exhausting, not because they dislike people, but because they cannot stop analyzing them, noticing every subtle expression, inconsistency, or flicker of insecurity. They don't rely on constant external validation to feel alive, and when you reach that state, society's grip on you weakens. You won't be guilted into overworking for recognition, pressured into following trends for approval, or controlled by the weight of loneliness. You've detached from the primary mechanisms of modern control: fear of missing out, comparison, and the incessant craving for belonging. What follows is subtle yet transformative. Your mind, no longer consumed by external noise, begins to cultivate original thought. It generates its own signal. You form opinions that aren't secondhand. You observe truths others overlook. You find depth in simplicity and beauty in routine. Even boredom shifts into something productive. It compels you to reflect, create, and question. Machiavelli would approve because this mirrors the process he described for rulers, stepping away from public opinion to achieve independent thought. Without that distance, even a leader becomes a puppet. Without solitude, even a thinker becomes a mere follower. Yet true solitude demands courage. People assume it's easy to stay at home, to be alone with oneself. It isn't. It requires inner strength to sit with your own thoughts without flinching. Many can't handle it. That's why they fill every idle moment with distractions, scrolling, texting, streaming. Silence becomes unbearable because in silence, the mind unveils uncomfortable truths. It reveals who you are beneath the facades. It forces you to confront what you've been avoiding. Those who embrace solitude face this inner mirror often enough to stop fearing it. Their presence feels grounded because they've shed the noise of unprocessed emotions. And here's an irony Machiavelli would appreciate. The more you master solitude, the more control you gain in social spaces. Not by dominating others, but because they remain entangled in the noise you've escaped. You can walk into any situation unaffected by manipulation because you no longer seek approval or crumble under rejection. When liberated from the need for acceptance, your words carry weight because they arise from intention, not reaction. This is the hallmark of someone who has spent enough time alone to understand their own value. So when encountering someone who cherishes solitude, No, it's not a flaw. It's often a sign of psychological evolution. They have discovered that constant engagement clouds clarity. They understand that true presence requires purpose and have mastered the timeless art of appearing absent while quietly growing stronger. Solitude also rewires how they interpret power itself. Without the world's constant noise, something intriguing emerges. The meaning of power evolves. To most, power signifies dominance, money, status, influence over others. But for those who thrive in isolation, power takes on a new dimension. It becomes self-mastery, the ability to regulate your thoughts, control your reactions, and direct your energy intentionally. Once you value this kind of power, the external forms lose their appeal. Machiavelli might have called this the invisible kingdom, where influence originates long before anyone notices it. If you govern your own mind, no one else can rule you. This is psychological sovereignty, discovered only when you stop drawing strength from external distractions. Those who prefer staying home intuitively grasp this truth. They no longer feel compelled to attend every gathering, impress every acquaintance, or prove themselves to anyone. Their fulfillment is self-contained and self-sufficient. And when your contentment arises internally, the outside world loses its grip on you. This is why individuals who embrace solitude often exude an effortless mystery. Their quietness isn't contrived. It naturally arises from a lack of need for performance or pretense. They're not avoiding others. They're simply uninterested in superficial connections. Shame doesn't control them. They confront their thoughts in the quiet of their own minds. Pressure doesn't sway them. They have trained their impulses to abide by logic. This is why Machiavelli might see individuals like this as dangerous. They cannot be coerced with attention or guilted through isolation. In fact, they are entirely at ease in both. This comfort births a trait that modern society often undervalues: patience. An isolated mind moves deliberately and strategically, free from the need for instant gratification or external validation. It recognizes something profound. All meaningful change, whether within oneself or in the world, demands time. Patience grants them the ability to think in years rather than hours. Such people observe, plan, and wait for the precise moment to act. Their actions might appear sudden or unplanned to onlookers, but for them, it has been an extended process unfolding quietly. This is the essence of Machiavellian timing. Never rushed, never desperate, always intentional. Over time, patience redefines their sense of reward. Fleeting pleasures, social approval, gossip, and superficial validation lose their appeal. Instead, they prioritize mastery, growth, and inner peace. You might notice that those drawn to solitude often lead routines that seem mundane from the outside, but are deeply satisfying within. Reading, creating, refining a craft, or simply thinking, none of these activities derive their value from others' opinions. The autonomy behind such choices allows them to craft a world where their time's worth is not dictated by external judgment. However, this peace of mind brings an unexpected challenge. The deeper one's solitude-driven clarity becomes, the more chaotic and abrasive the outside world feels when re-engaged with it. The chatter of small talk, the ceaseless competition, the obsession with busyness, all of it starts to feel shallow and revealing. Social interactions appear driven more by anxiety than by genuine purpose. This insight creates distance. They can participate socially, but struggle to truly connect or belong. Machiavelli might call this realization the cost of clarity, a kind of loneliness born from heightened awareness. Yet, this loneliness isn't a deficit. It signals growth. True connection doesn't come from quantity, but alignment. For those in solitude, relationships become rare but profoundly meaningful, built not on distractions, but on mutual depth and understanding. Such connections energize rather than exhaust, sharpening the mind rather than draining it. Beyond the psychological aspect, there's a physical transformation that often goes unnoticed. Solitude eventually rewires the nervous system. In constant company, the fight-or-flight response remains gently activated. Every interaction, glance, or negotiation requires subtle adjustments for harmony. But alone, this system rests as the body relaxes, breathing deepens, and focus sharpens. Over time, this state becomes a source of power. Quiet starts to feel like control. This is why those accustomed to solitude often remain composed even amidst chaos. Their nervous system is conditioned for calmness, and within that calm lies an innate advantage. Stillness cultivates perception, perception enables prediction, and prediction precedes control. The individual who remains unshaken as others flounder becomes the one directing how events unfold. So, the next time you think of someone who favors staying home over constant socializing, resist stereotypes of shyness or detachment. Many are not shying away from life. They are mastering it in quiet preparation. Every hour spent in solitude sharpens their focus. Every day free from distractions strengthens their clarity. Each act of restraint builds inner power. They don't need to display strength. They live it. They don't prove intelligence, but demonstrate it through patience and foresight. And when they eventually reappear in the world, others might misinterpret their calm as mystery or authority, or even arrogance. But the reality is simpler. They've always known that solitude wasn't a prison. It was preparation all along.